Hey guys, this is Eckhart's Ladder. Hello and welcome to another video. And today we will be covering Crosshair, and specifically Crosshair's new Imperial Armor and what it could represent for not only the future of the character, but the future of the Empire's special forces. Because a lot of people have guessed that maybe Crosshair could be one of the first Death Troopers or some other precursor to an Imperial special weapons program. But before we get into everything, I want to give a big thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Vite Ramen. Now, as you guys know, Vite Ramen is a huge supporter of my channel and actually recently was one of the main sponsors for my Star Wars Squadrons tournament. I really couldn't have done it without them. Vite Ramen takes the idea of a quick and easy ramen, but makes it very delicious and much healthier than standard store-bought ramen. We all know that no one has a perfect diet and it's very difficult to be healthy at all times, and it can be kind of miserable. Vite Ramen offers a quick, delicious, and healthy meal that you can feel good about buying. It comes from a small American company that treats their employees and the people that work with them, like me, extremely well, and they're always working to improve their flavors. You can see, for example, their version 1.2 flavors on their website, which I'll link down below. Anyway, choosing a healthy meal like Vite Ramen is a little victory, which really adds up in stressful times like this, so you can check out the link down in the description, and you can use the code Eckhart's Ladder. And if you don't believe me, just check the comments, because anytime I do a Vite Ramen sponsorship, people who've bought it in the past always pipe up about how much they love it. Anyway, I thought I'd do a bit of a deep dive into Crosshair's new Imperial Armor because it's very unique. And the first thing that I noticed is that Crosshair's armor doesn't really look like it belongs to him. Obviously, he's wearing it and it fits him, but his armor looks much more appropriate for Hunter. Let's take a look. First of all, we have the helmet, and the helmet is just a further imperialized version of Hunter's helmet. We can see it's got the same basic shape, but with a leaner mouth and eyes. Nothing at all like Crosshair's helmet, interesting enough. The other thing that immediately caught my eye was the Pauldrons. The Pauldrons are very similar to the shoulder pieces that Crosshair has, where he's got that sort of bulk and extra armor. On the other hand, most members of the Bad Batch have a much narrower arm section. It's funny, I noticed it right away because it kind of reminded me of the EOD armor from Halo 3. Another feature of Crosshair's armor is his backpack. However, that is actually not something unique to Hunter. In fact, all of the clones have this. The helmet does, however, have Hunter's magnifying or HUD piece, which seems to be used in the marksman's role. It's kind of weird that that's not integrated into the helmet itself, but whatever. I kind of like it. It's cool, and it harkens back to Boba Fett and Jango's armor. I guess there's some Mandalorian stuff there. Pretty cool. Anyway, could Hunter and his armor be a precursor to what we see later on with Death Troopers? I mean, it's possible. There are a few similarities. The first thing that I noticed is that unlike standard Imperial armor, Crosshair's gear and standard Death Trooper armor is very almost like lanky. That's partially because Dark Troopers are very tall, but the armor has a thinness to it, a sort of sinewy power and look of mobility, like the character can move around very quickly and like they are very lethal. So that I would say is quite similar to the Death Trooper armor, and also Crosshair's visor especially has little bits of green highlighting, something we definitely saw with the Darth Troopers. So there's a connection there for sure. Both helmets notably have the little, I don't know what they are, speakers or breathers or something at the bottom of the helmet, which are green. So that's, I think, part of the reason why so many people are making this connection. Overall, though, aside from what I mentioned and of course the dark color of both armors, I'm not sure there's a whole lot of visual similarity here. The shoulders on the Dark Trooper are very narrow. It kind of contributes to that very unique tall factor that they have. And the rest of their armor, including their chests and leg pieces, is very almost squared off and angular, whereas Crosshair still has the Republic era curves a little bit. Now, does that mean he couldn't be a precursor? No, of course not. There's definitely the possibility there. And I think we also at some point should take a look at his squad mates who have their own variation of the armor, which is a little more Death Trooper-esque because of the shoulders. But it's also kind of interesting because the wearer, i.e. Crosshair or the Death Trooper himself, also have some similarities. Death Troopers were not clones, however, they were soldiers which were heavily genetically modified. As with the Bad Batch, they were almost transhuman, in that they had qualities perhaps beyond an ordinary peak human. Death Troopers were also meant to serve in small squads, as is the case with Crosshair and his new Imperials, and would have used a variety of advanced technology. So, is Crosshair perhaps some precursor to the Death Trooper? I mean, I think it's possible. I'm not sure if that's the route they're going to take, and I'm also not sure that the armor will actually be a predecessor to the Death Trooper armor itself, but I do think there is an intentional similarity in in design, especially with, for example, the green highlighting of the visor and the more streamlined look compared to the average soldier. Black stormtroopers are nothing new though. I mean, even in Star Wars canon, we've had the Shadow Trooper, which itself has Legends origins, which is sort of just a stormtrooper in ordinary armor painted black. There's not a whole lot that visually distinguishes it from a stormtrooper besides the color. There's more varieties in Legends as well, including Nova Troopers, Shadow Stormtroopers, all basically the same idea. The dark armor representing some higher elite level of fighter. There is, of course, another black armored enemy which has risen to prominence in Star Wars canon, and I'm talking, of course, about the Dark Troopers. We saw Dark Troopers in Star Wars canon, of course, they were in Legends as well, and by the time we see them in The Mandalorian, they're machines with very thick armor and extraordinary strength. However, we know, based on conversations in the show, that that's the third generation of Dark Troopers, and that prior variants actually had an operator within the suit. Could we be looking at a very early Dark Trooper design? I mean, there are some more thematic similarities. First of all, as mentioned, we have the very large shoulders. I mean, both helmets are of course vaguely Imperial, but just generally, I don't think this is really a connection that can be made, because there's no indication that Crosshair's armor is exceptional in any way. I mean, that could be something we learn later, or he could get a further upgrade, but right now, there's nothing indicating that it's anything other than black stormtrooper armor that seems to be particularly mobile and a little bit more advanced in terms of sensors and whatnot. If this really were an early Dark Trooper design, we'd expect it to have some sort of highlights. Maybe he punches through a wall or tanks a blaster bolt or something else. And of course, there is still time for that to happen. We just haven't seen it yet. Anyway, don't have a whole lot else to bring up for this. I will say, I first assumed when I saw Crosshair's new armor that it was basically just Dark Clone Commando armor, but if you look, it's actually far, far different. Not only in general shape, but of course helmet too. It's far more Imperial, and there's really no clear design connection between the two, which is a little bit surprising to me. But guys, that's all I have for now. Until next time, let me know what you thought of this video. Let me know if there are any other Bad Batch topics you'd like me to cover. Again, check out Vite Ramen, phenomenal people, phenomenal ramen. Until next time, guys, be safe, have a good one, and may the Force be with you.